खण्डन भाव बन्धन जग बन्धन बन्दित निरञ्जन नर रूप धार निरञ्जन नर रूप धार निर्गुण गुण मोचन आघ दूषण जग भूषण चित घन काय ज्ञानाञ्जन विमल नयन ज्ञानाञ्जन विमल नयन विखने मोह भाषर भाव सागर चिर उन्माद प्रेम पाथर भक्तार जन युगल चारण भक्तार जन युगल चारण तारण भव जिम्मित युग ईशार जगदीशार योग सहाय निरोधन समाहित मन निरोधन समाहित मन निराखी तव कृपा भजन दुख गंजन करुणा घन कर्म कठोर प्राणार्पण जगत तारण प्राणार्पण जगत तारण कीर्तन कलिडोर वाञ्छन काम काञ्चन अति निन्दित इन्द्रिय राग त्यागी शरण ॐ ह्रीं ऋतं त्वमचलो गुणजित् गुणेभ्यः नक्तं दिवं सकरुणं तव पादपद्मं मोहं कषं बहुकृतं न भजे यतोऽहं तस्मात् त्वमेव शरणं मम दीनबन्धो भक्तिर्भगश्च भजनं भवभेदकारी गच्छन्तलं सुविपुलं गमनाय तत्त्वं वक्त्रोद्धृतोऽपि हृदये न मे भाति किञ्चित् तस्मात् त्वमेव शरणं मम दीनबन्धो तेजस्तरन्ति तरसां त्वयि तृप्त तृष्णां रागे कृते ऋतपथे त्वयि रामकृष्णे मर्त्यामृतं तव पदं मरणोर्मि नाशं तस्मात् त्वमेव शरणं मम दीनबन्धो कृत्यं करोति कलुषं कुहकान्तकारी शान्तं शिवं सुविमलं तव नाम नाथ यस्मादहं तु अशरणो जगदेकगाम्यं तस्मात् त्वमेव शरणं मम दीनबन्धो ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतार वरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। ॐ नमो श्री भगवते रामकृष्णाय नमो नमः। ॐ नमो श्री भगवते रामकृष्णाय नमो नमः। ॐ नमो श्री भगवते रामकृष्णाय नमो नमः। ॐ सर्वमङ्गल माङ्गल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थ साधिके शरण्ये त्र्यम्बके गौरी नारायणी नमोस्तुते। सृष्टिस्थिति विनाशानां शक्तिभूते सनातने गुणाश्रये Sharti Hare Devi Narayani Namostute Jayana Rayani Namostute Jayana Rayani Namostute Jayana Rayani Namostute Jayana Rayani Namostute. जय महामाई की जय, जय भगवान श्री रामकृष्ण देव की जय, जय स्वामी जी महाराज जी की जय.
Namashri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Sure Satchit Sukhasvarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. So we are resuming these discussions on Swami Vivekananda's Jnana Yoga lectures after a gap of more than 6 months. It's not here in India. So let's resume where we left off, this lecture on God in everything. That's what we were discussing. And here he is really talking about a particular kind of practice, because most of us, willy-nilly, are involved in some day-to-day work, at the same time, those of us who are listening to this have some interest in spiritual matters, for want of a better expression. And how exactly are we to put these two things? In the initial stages, some people think that there is some exotic or mystical thing called a spiritual life, and then there is this other part which is secular. And whether we like it or not, most of our time is spent in various activities. And what this particular lecture stresses and delineates and clarifies is precisely what is the attitude that we bring to various works and to our various interpersonal relationships in the world. That's the issue that he tries to lay out here. And there are two possible extreme attitudes that can be taken, neither of which are conducive to this kind of subjective growth, is what he has been talking about so far. What are these mistaken attitudes? First, to essentially talk about the visible physical world and the physical universe and our entity as physical beings as the only reality that is, and to treat our personal desires, wants, needs as the one thing that needs to be met and proceed according to that. In very crude terms, that is a somewhat superficial, materialistic attitude towards life in general. And invariably what happens is that leading this kind of a life, one comes up with obstacles. Essentially, one understands that wants and needs in the human heart are infinite, and there is no way that they can be satisfied fully in this world we live in. That's the problem with taking this one extreme viewpoint, that this physical world with all its variegated existences is the only reality that is, and the only thing that needs to be given importance. That's one. The other is to denounce. Please mind the verb that is being chosen here. Denounce, not renounce. So denounce meaning this extreme other point, which is typically the attitude taken by many organized religions, that this world is nothing and it does not deserve any attention. Give it up and devote yourself to various other practices. Taken literally, it means live away from society, go into some jungle or some mountaintop, live away from society, and that's the only way you will be able to gain solace or peace or joy or spiritual fulfillment, whatever way you want to describe it. And what Vivekananda has been saying here is that both these attitudes are erroneous. And though both these attitudes look as if they are opposite to each other, there is one thing that is common to both. Both take the world as it is to be real, without asking oneself the question, what do I mean when I say that this world around me with which I interact is real? Who grants the sense of reality to the world? Without delving into this core psyche of ourselves, the faculty, it's got a name nowadays, it's called reification, granting reality. In fact, those who we regard as mad, what has happened is that they have essentially taken a certain narrative, a certain story. Yeah, I mean, there was this joke that we used to hear of this person who was under the impression that these crows were flying overhead were actually secret spies from a different country, and they were really sending us messages. We would laugh at it, basically because this is a certain narrative that has caught hold of a person's mind and it's patently false. On the other hand, the person who believes in that really takes this crows passing by and the thoughts that come into his or her head as very real, and builds his whole life around this patently fake narrative. Now the question is, what is it in our psyche? In this extreme case, we can see, I mean, from a third person point of view, it's something that's clearly false. Why? Because that person has not taken those things and tested them against various things that we know to be real. And that faculty of testing something that I believe to be real against other criteria, this particular faculty of the mind has somehow, for that person, been suppressed. But let's take this person who we would jokingly call mad and see whether there is something in our psyche, in our normal, so-called normal psyche, which is similar to that person or not. From childhood, all of us have this shared belief that this world is real. It's an instinctive reaction. We do not bother to ask ourselves the question, what makes me think so? And here what is being suggested is really an enquiry into this thought or feeling. It's not something that's merely at the intellectual level that we grant reality to the world. We feel it instinctively. Yeah? And it is that feeling, that instinct, that needs to be questioned, that needs to be challenged. How? It's by asking ourselves, what exactly do we mean when we say that this is real? That this world around us is real. This questioning, this challenging, this taken for granted hypothesis, this questioning is called Viveka. Yeah? In Sanskrit, it's called Viveka or analysis or discrimination. In particular, it has a particular qualification. It's called Sat Asat Viveka. Sat means that which is. Asat means that which is not. Is, this verb is. Yeah? And the Sanskrit verb analog of that is the dhatu as. Yeah? So from which this word Sat has come. As is the dhatu, that which isness is Sat. Yeah? And we are really asking, what do I mean when I say something is? This is basically inquiry into what reality is about. And here is the phrased in this framework, the two attitudes that are being done away with are: one, all this is real and only all this is real. Yeah, this is what is meant by Jagat Satya or whatever. Yeah, I mean the usual instinctive reaction to the world. It's at a certain level, it's a kind of mindless or instinctive reaction to the world, basically because we have not yet actually identified the faculty which grants reality, the faculty in us, the buddhi, the emotion, the combination of thinking, feeling, willing together, which declares that this world is real. That has not been challenged. And essentially all such philosophies base their ideas on this instinctive belief without inquiring into it. Even such an, I think we've talked about this before, this great agnostic philosopher Bertrand Russell, who happened to have been a logician, a philosopher, there is some essay where he talks about an introduction to one of his books. He says, naive realism, this attitude, this is all that there is and this is all that we can talk about as real. Naive realism is that attitude, which is the attitude that things are as they are. Lead us to the study of physics, which in turn tells us things are not as they are. In particular, I mean, what he's alluding to is that we think of this chair, this table, this laptop, and then we start inquiring into it. And then we start noticing that no, they are built up of much smaller parts. And you further analyze, they decompose into atoms. Atoms have constituent particles, electrons, protons, etc., etc. And so what he says is that things are not as they are. And then he makes this sort of tongue-in-cheek remark. Naive, therefore, naive realism, if true, is false. Why? Basically because it leads to physics which says that things are not as they are. Naive realism, if true, is false. Hence, it is false. This is a kind of a tongue-in-cheek cutting down of this very naive idea of reality that we have. Whether we like it or not, I mean, there is this faculty of inquiry in us. And what is happening here is that it is encouraging us to focus this faculty of inquiry, and this focused inquiry is what is important. This focusing of the faculty of inquiry into this subjective ability, this subjective faculty which grants reality to the world around us. That is the target, that is the object of inquiry. So it's one faculty, one deep basic faculty which is the seeking of knowledge, the seeking of truth. Directed on what? Directed on a certain instinctive reaction to the world which basically says that this world around us is real. In fact, herein, I mean, when you start inquiring, then one gets really into this domain of one of two non-dualistic philosophies. I mean, depending on what is the way of inquiry that one takes. One is Advaita Vedanta, and the other is Madhyamaka Buddhism. And what is it that one is doing? One starts inquiring. Both have this. I mean, so this is really where one is asking about, is this that we see around us all that is real? In other words, what really is reality? That question is being asked by the inquiring mind, which wants deeply an answer to this question. Vedanta phrases the answer as Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya. Yeah? And very often it's unfortunately translated as Brahman alone is real, the world is false. That's a somewhat unfortunate translation, basically because when we act in the world, there is a certain reality that we grant our behavior. Perhaps a better way of looking at it is that this naive reality, this view of that things are as they are, all this that we see around us is not, it's not just this that is real. We need to probe deeper. In other words, it instills in us this quest for greater truth in and through this reality that we see around us. This quest, this inquiring mind has led to the systematic quest into the world and the reality behind it, which we call science. The same thing, that same faculty, directed inwards towards our own psyche is in the Vedantic literature called Jnana Yoga. That's what the topic of this book is. And that analytical inquiry again finds a ramification in the Buddhist literature as well. These two, the Madhyamaka Buddhism and this Vedantic inquiry, are basically the obverse and reverse of the same process. Conclusions derived are phrased somewhat differently, but the process really is the same. Anyway, so once you start inquiring, then it's not that you are throwing away the world and refusing. I mean, what were the two things that Vivekananda was warning us about? One is take everything as it is and essentially behave in the world according to that feeling. That's one extreme. The other is throw it all away. Both these positions have one thing in common, which is that it does not engage the mind in a higher pursuit. One is saying yes to everything, the other is saying no to everything, without a capacity to sift through data, without a capacity to excavate and find for oneself what really do I believe to be true about this. In other words, there's a component of mindlessness or mental lethargy, a lack of inquiry in both these attitudes. As such, neither can possibly lead us to truth, whatever that means. This is the background of this talk that we had covered 6 months back. So let's start at this stage. If we understand the giving up of the world, we are now reading from this lecture by Vivekananda. If we understand the giving up of the world in its old crude sense, then it would come to this, that we must not work, that we must be idle, sitting like lumps of earth, neither thinking nor doing anything, but must become fatalists, driven about by every circumstance, ordered about by the laws of nature, drifting from place to place. That would be the result. But that is not what is meant. We must work. Ordinary mankind, driven everywhere by false desire, what do they know of work? The man propelled by his own feelings and his own senses, what does he know about work? He works who is not propelled by his own desires, by any selfishness whatsoever. He works who has no ulterior motive in view. He works who has nothing to gain from work. What is he trying to stress here? It's basically that this world with all its changes is a dynamical thing which impinges on our consciousness as something that is changing. And this constant change is really at the heart of the work we do. What then is the spirit behind the work? It is to recognize this dynamism in nature, both subjective and objective. In other words, this blood coursing in my veins, even if I am sitting apparently idle, there is work going on. There's this breath coming in and going out, the heart pulsating, the thoughts coming in and going and flitting across our minds. All this dynamism is part and parcel of this work, of this great work, this cosmos in its rhythms that move. This dynamism and recognizing it and recognizing that same dynamism in one's personal being, in one's individual being, is recognizing that this work is going on not because of me personally, but because it's in the nature of things. What happens with such a recognition? This obsession with my work, my physical body and its changes, once one recognizes that there is this larger thing going on of which my body and mind is a part, what happens is that the perspective becomes larger. The obsession with this puny little self, which is what we regarded as my work or my body, my thoughts, my physiological system, that minus starts decreasing, and it's seen as part and parcel of this dynamism that's going on in all of nature, both subjective and objective, both what we thought of as outside me as well as inside me. In other words, this largeness of perspective starts dawning. And then one sees that this work goes on. This little extension that we had of our little I-ness into this and arrogating some of this as, oh, this is part is my work, that is not mine. This is my body and then my physiology, my blood supply, etc., etc. This was just a convention, just a conventional truth without basis in a reality. Which means that this little I starts getting undermined and the larger perspective starts dawning. In a very commonsensical way, the particles that constitute my physical body and my blood today is not what constituted it, say, 7 years back. This is a medical fact. All cells of the body get replaced. If you probe even deeper, then elements keep changing. It's like a stream that flows, and we give it a name. We call it, this is my body-mind structure, without probing into it. Yeah? What this Vedanta is asking you, look at it from the point of view of enquiry. The Buddhists call this mindfulness. The Vedantin calls it keeping this Viveka awake, this capacity for an analytical thinking alive and awake. Yeah? And once one is starts to recognize this larger work that is going on all around us, what happens? The view starts changing. How does the view change? And this he really illustrates. See, most of the time, for some people, depending on the constitution of the mind, this enquiry into truth, it seems a kind of an abstract thing. What are people after? Well, then satisfaction or joy is something that is very often declared as this is really what we want. This largeness of perspective, as the perspective starts broadening, joy is an inevitable concomitant. It comes along with it. Real core of what is joyfulness, cheerfulness. And this is what he goes on to. See here, in this paragraph, he works who has nothing to gain from work. What he is hinting at is this larger perspective of seeing the work happening, rather than trying to think of it, trying to poke one's doership, one's enjoyership into this flow that we call work. Now he tells us basically that really it is this larger attitude that brings with it a certain ineffable joy to one's own existence. And he starts off by saying, who enjoys the picture? The seller or the seer? The seller is busy with his accounts, computing what his gain will be, how much profit he will realize on the picture. His brain is full of that. He is looking at the hammer and watching the bids. He is intent on hearing how fast the bids are rising. That man is enjoying the picture who has gone there without any intention of buying or selling. He looks at the picture and enjoys it. So this whole universe is a picture, and when these desires have vanished, men will enjoy the world, and then this buying and selling and these foolish ideas of possession will be ended. The money lender gone, the buyer gone, the seller gone. This world remains the picture, a beautiful painting. I never read of any more beautiful conception of God than the following. He is the great poet, the ancient poet. The whole universe is his poem, coming in verses and rhymes and rhythms, written in infinite bliss. Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anoraniyan Samanusmaredya Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varanam Tamasah Parastat. Kavim Puranam. He is the great poet, the ancient poet. So there are two places where similar passages there. One is in the Shvetashvatara, one is in the Bhagavad Gita. When we have given up desires, then alone shall we be able to read and enjoy this universe of God. Then everything will become deified. Nooks and corners, byways and shady places, which we thought dark and unholy, will be all deified. They will all reveal their true nature, and we shall smile at ourselves and think that all this weeping and crying has been but child's play, and we were only standing by watching. Two things are being combined here. It's basically saying the witness attitude, where you see everything with full awareness and alertness, which means complete awareness of everything that is going around, but without extending into that a desire to possess or buying and selling, which means basically this possession, this is mine, that is not extended. It is what it is. And this is exactly what the theist, what the people who follow a devotional path say. This is all that belongs, this whole universe is God's property. It's the same statement, but made from a more devotional point of view. And if you want to, if you're more analytically inclined, more towards truth, it is what it is. There is this nature flowing. What does it bring? With this lifting one's intent out of the stream, it brings with it this larger attitude, this perspective of the witness attitude, so to speak. What it brings is this constant flow of joy and bliss, because that is our own nature. It is what these desires to possess something or quit something, that is what mars this flow of bliss, this flow of joy. This is what we start understanding, that we don't have to go and buy ourselves a kilo of joy from elsewhere. It's there in us. It's there in us all the time. It is just that we, with our narrow, fragmented thinking, we have broken that up, and therefore we think that we have to be hunting for this joy in little things. I have to go and get myself an ice cream, and then I will have this little joy that comes from the ice cream. Why? Because now my tongue is titillating and it's giving me a certain sense of irritation. Without quenching it, I will not be able to derive that satisfaction. A desire to possess this ice cream, and that has to be put inside what I call my body, and then only will I have some joy. Nobody has told us that there are these conditions. We impose these conditions on ourselves. And it's who has given this condition for joy to us. And the thing is to recognize it is we ourselves who do it. Yeah? And we ourselves do it by this fictitious process, by this imaginary process. These foolish ideas of possession, as Vivekananda talks about. So basically what is happening is that we are being silly. We are being silly. Say for instance, just imagine, and this has become really, it's something that's pretty, something that we see all the time. So somebody has landed up at a seashore or is going to a mountain to see this vast scenery. And that vast scenery immediately affects, it affects many of us, either the sight of this vast sea in front of us, or this vast mountains in front of us, calms our mind and fills our mind with a certain joy. But immediately, I have to really take a picture of this, post it on social media or send it on WhatsApp to my friends, saying that, I am now enjoying this. What has happened is that instead of allowing the mind to become quiescent and absorb that joy, what has happened is that, this thing that we want, that is there, that is this joy that is there, I have to capture it in these material terms of a picture, and that has to be sent along either on social media or WhatsApp. What has happened? That little picture has completely obliterated this vast joy that was there all the time. When these vast sceneries evoke this sense of largeness in us, and we have fragmented it, we have broken it up by saying that, no, not this vastness, but the picture of it. In other words, the subjective feeling of largeness, vastness, joy has been destroyed by this little foolish desire to possess that infinite, which it cannot be done. All that we can do is take a picture of it, and that picture is a little thing, it's not the real thing. The subjective experience which was there in the face of this large scenery was very real. And we have destroyed that unconditional joy by deciding to take a picture and thinking foolishly that by taking this picture, we are really capturing it. We cannot capture the vast in that picture. Nobody will say that a picture of say Mount Everest is Mount Everest. That sense of largeness, the sense of awe, the sense of joy that you get by seeing the vast mountain ranges, the Himalayas in front of you, that is not going to be reflected in that picture. What will be reflected is that if you have enjoyed it, and then later on you see the picture, it might remind you of that experience and you might be able to relive it. The subjective experience is what is vitally important, not the picture. This analysis is what is being suggested here. And then if we can take this step back and see all of nature, all of this world around us as this painting, then that sense of vastness, that sense of joy, that sense of peace that we get when seeing mountains, this will be there with us all the time, in and through all the work we do on a day-to-day basis. We'll come back to this next week. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.